Gavin Newsom, gruesome Newsom himself.
The Greasy Gavin.
Yep. We were talking a little bit about, Kamala potentially running for president again in the 2028 election cycle. I said that she definitely will. Zach, if you guys remember, said there's no way. Let's see who wins that debate. Only time will tell, right? But if she does decide to run, probably her biggest competition in a similar lane is fellow California Democrat Gavin Newsom.
This guy, I do think we're going to see in the presidential race.
Oh yeah, I would put my entire life savings on it. This guy has
no debate there.
In fact, a lot of people were speculating that there was a chance he could jump in and challenge Joe Biden. Remember, they were like, "Come on, Gavin! Like, if you really want to do this, Joe Biden is weak. He's feeble. You can take him down right now." Gavin Newsom did not have the balls to jump in that race, but he certainly will the next, if there is one. So let's take a look at him, doing his best audition for the 2028 nomination. And I'm also interested, beyond the horse race crap, if you actually think there's any substance to this, if you actually think this is a correct move politically, substantively, whatever. Let's take a look.
Wake up, America. Wake up. You will not have a country if he rigs this election. You will have a president who will be running for a third term. Mark my word. I wasn't exaggerating when I said that I received in the mail a Trump 2028 hat from one of his biggest supporters. These guys are not screwing around. The rules do not apply to him. The most corrupt president in history. Doesn't believe in free enterprise, crony capitalism. He is wrecking this country, wrecking the economy. It's a lawless president.
He doesn't believe in free enterprise or crony capitalism. That's his big beef.
Wait, you say he doesn't believe in crony capitalism?
He said he doesn't believe in free enterprise, and then he pauses and he says crony capitalism, like as if he's saying he doesn't believe in free enterprise or crony capitalism, which are like the two things that Donald Trump does believe in.
Free enterprise, crony capitalism. He is wrecking this country, wrecking the economy. It's a lawless president. Wake up, America. Wake up to what's going on. Wake up.
Like, a part of me can appreciate the sentiment of what Gavin Newsom is going here, but he is maybe the least inspiring speaker I've ever seen come out of the California governorship.
Yeah, let's take a look at this one, see if he does any better. Because, again, they're obviously talking about this fascist, undemocratic plan to gerrymander even more states and make it even harder for any Democrats to get elected, especially in a place like Missouri. We're up against this in our very district. So, let's take a look at this one.
Yeah, well, I think you should start with Shreveport, Louisiana, in Speaker Johnson's district that has 6+ times the per capita murder rate of Nancy Pelosi, San Francisco. What about the carnage, Mr. President, in Shreveport? Why aren't you protecting the folks there? 8 of the top 10 murder states in this country, red states. What bullshit. And everyone knows it. Everybody knows it. Again, it's acts of authoritarianism. It's acts of power on a person that is trying to use his its formal authority, and it's depleting. And it's weak. It's increasingly weak, and it's increasingly desperate. And that's why it's important for us at this moment to meet him head on, not just rhetorically, but through substantive counteractions. And that's what we're doing in California with this ballot initiative.
Yeah, so I totally agree with you about his rizless fucking. I mean, I even think Pete Buttigieg has more of a presence on the mic, at least these days. Maybe not when he first came onto the scene, but these days at least he seems a little bit more sure of himself. Gavin Newsom just seems like a total creature of corporate America.
Yeah, this is a weird analogy to make, but Gavin Newsom gives off like creepy pediatrician vibes to me.
Yeah.
Like the kind of guy that you should feel good about giving your child to this guy to perform some routine checkups. But when he takes the kid from you, you start to get a little bit of a shiver, and you're like, hey, you got any man from you got anybody else back there, dude? Like, can I swap this guy? I just get weird, cold, I'm going to be a little too fondly with you when you're at the doctor's office vibe from that guy. I don't know why I get that vibe from him. I can't explain it to you better than that, but that is the exact read I have on this man. I would not leave my kid alone with him, even in the doctor's office. If that guy was like, yeah, I'm an MD family pediatrician, I'd be like, I don't trust you, bro. I just get the worst vibes from you. You just said things that I ostensibly agreed with, and I still recoiled a little bit. I don't know what kind of a trait that is, but you've got it.
To me, he reminds me of an orthodontist. I don't know if you guys ever had braces or whatever, but Gavin Newsom was fucking exactly like my orthodontist, the dude that set me up with the teeth you can see right now, these perfectly straight, teeth that weren't always that straight.
You still wear your retainer, by the way. That's one thing I've noticed about Gavin. I got a retainer when I was 15, 16 years old. I wore it like 3 times and then threw it away probably. This dude's got dedication.
I mean, if you go through the whole worry of having braces, I mean, to not wear your retainer is just to let your teeth go back to the way they were.
Mine never went back.
Interesting. You had straight up braces?
Oh, fuck yeah, dude. I had braces forever. I had the rubber bands. I had everything. I think it's
maybe
a
you
myth.
didn't actually need them in the first place, though, because a lot of times they'll just convince
I had
parents.
one fucked up tooth and it's fixed now, but yeah.
There you go. Maybe I'll stop wearing mine. I also grind my teeth, though. That's the real reason I wear my retainer. Is my retainer is a special mouth guard that prevents me from just obliterating my own teeth.
That actually, it sounds important.
Yeah, so I have to wear that shit. But either way, this has certainly worked on the likes of the Ed Krenzenstein, these kind of liberal podcaster bros. Like they're eating this shit up, posting this cringe on Twitter. Also, Gavin Newsom and his staff is like, they're trying to troll Trump by posting shit like this. And being celebrated by the likes of Harry Sisson. They're like trying to copy his, style of tweeting. Donald is finished. He is no longer hot. First the tiny, not so whatever the fuck, all this stupid crap. I'm not even going to read it all because it's annoying. But, again, I don't really think this is going to like get under Trump's skin that much. Like, oh, wow, they posted a tweet making fun of me. Like Trump has been made fun of by his Democratic opponents for the entirety of his political existence, based on the way he talks, based on the way he looks, based on the way he acts. Like, I just don't think it's going to work. Now, I will say if Gavin Newsom is actually able to successfully, kind of get the Democrats back by gerrymandering Republican districts out of California, that I'd be okay with. I think that actually would be an example of fighting fire with fire and doing something substantive to try to push back against these redistricting efforts. I have no idea if it has any chance of being successful. I'm not really an expert as far as, what kind of authority Gavin Newsom has, but I will say this kind of stuff is a little bit cringy to me.
Yeah, look, that's exactly where the real, meat and potatoes ought to be. And that's where people will actually get interested. It's like, I'm prepared to fight fire with fire. There's this Politico article right here. Leak chart reveals winners and losers in California's Democratic gerrymander. And let us remind everyone, this is in retaliation. This is in response to the draconian fucking fascist takeover of our congressional charts and our districting as a nation to provide even more seats to Republicans in deep red states, right? So Gavin and I, we live in Kansas City, Missouri. It's one of the few blue dots in the entire state of Missouri. Emanuel Cleaver's been our representative for practically my whole fucking life, it feels like. He was the first black mayor of Kansas City, so people have a lot of love for him here. He's problematic, but he's really popular, so he stayed in office, right? So that guy is at risk of getting redistricted, basically out of office, because the Republicans had no chance of ever, taking away his seat basically until he died. He's really old, though. I think he's 80. Anyway, he's just one example. In Texas, they were trying to pick up extra seats, basically squeezing these smaller, more urban areas like Austin, Texas, like the outskirts of Dallas, wherever, where you might actually have a blue enclave, and making sure that it's impossible for them to actually have any political power. This is Gavin Newsom's response to it, and I hope that he goes balls to the fucking wall. I hope that he is ceaseless in trying every single thing that he can do in California. What is he going to do? Ruin the reputation of California in conservatives' eyes? This is fighting fire with fire, and sometimes that's what you've got to do. When they go low, we can go even lower because we're smarter than them. You know what I'm saying? If you want to play this dirty fucking game, then when the Democrats unseat you, I don't want to hear pissing and moaning about, oh my gosh, this is, this has never been done before. This is completely unprecedented, right? Well, we're in an unprecedented time. So when we stack the Supreme Court, when we redistrict the fuck out of everything, once the Democrats are back in power and people are really down on Donald Trump, which is already happening, right? People are already fleeing Donald Trump. His own base is collapsing before our eyes. They're going to be ready for this shit. And if the Democrats are serious about winning, they need to be talking nonstop about here's how we're going to fight. Here's how we're going to reset our country after all of the horrible things have happened. We've told you nonstop, this is how Donald Trump is destroying our country. Here's how we're going to fix our country as soon as you give us the keys back to the White House.
Yep, 100%. Newsom says it's not complicated. We're doing this in reaction to a president of the United States. They called a sitting governor of the state of Texas and said, find me 5 seats. We're doing it in reaction to that act. We're doing it mindful of our higher angels and better angels. We're doing it mindful that we want to model better behavior, as we've been doing for 15 years in the state of California with our independent redistricting commission, but we cannot unilaterally disarm. And again, I've seen a bunch of people kind of picking up on that and repeating it. Like, we're not going to unilaterally disarm. We're not going to sit here and play highball while they break all the rules. Like, no, we got to get on their level, get in the muck. So who knows if it'll actually work? Who knows? But if it does, I definitely think that's a real piece of credit we have to give Gavin Newsom, even if he is just doing it in order to kind of, become more popular going into 28, put himself at the top of that list, have himself at the top of people's minds. Like, that's definitely maybe what's going on here. But I do think it's actually pretty smart politics.
Oh yeah, 100%. I actually was going to ask you if you think that, he's going to be smart enough to use this as something that he really campaigns on as he leads into 2028. If he, will continue efforts like this, because that's the other thing, right? This is a long match. 2028 is 3 years away, right? So there's a long runway that needs to be had. And that's just for the Democratic primary. You still have the general election that's going to happen after that. So it's a huge amount of time that's going to be covered. This one lone act will not be enough to propel Gavin Newsom into, mainstream popularity 3 years from now, right? It's something he could reference, but he'll have to do other things. Do you think he'll be savvy enough to know that it's actually in his own best interest as a politician to continue to fight, to continue to put pressure on Donald Trump and be as antagonistic as possible?
Yeah, well, we talked about how he kind of fell on his face when he invited Steve Bannon on his stupid podcast.
Yes.
And kind of started to fall into the Joe and Mika, Jink and Anna thing, where it's like, oh, let's maybe be friendly to these guys and work it out as buddies. He got pretty intense backlash from liberals. Yeah, much like Mika and Joe did. And it seems like he learned his lesson. Obviously, we also talked about Gretchen Whitmer had her infamous faux pas where she appeared in a photo with Trump or whatever. But
I still don't think she's going to even run.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't pay enough attention to Gretchen Whitmer, honestly, to have an opinion on whether or not she's going to run. But I think that luckily for those politicians, people's memories are pretty short, and I think that those episodes will be long forgotten by the time that it actually matters. And stuff like this, these kind of stunts, and standing up to Trump in more aggressive ways, I do think that will carry a lot of cachet with the base, and honestly, if Kamala is going to run, she needs to do something herself. Obviously, she's not a governor. She's not in a position of power, but she needs to do something bold and aggressive, because or else people like Gavin Newsom are just going to be like, what the fuck have you been doing? Like, I've been actually fighting Trump for the last 4 years as the governor of California. I also think it is a little bit unfortunate for someone like AOC, who obviously is not a governor. She doesn't have as much power as Gavin Newsom, so she really can't do anything like this. Like, the most AOC could do would be introduce some bill that everyone knows is doomed to fail and is basically just a virtue signal. Like, that's the most she could do.
Well, I also think continuing to fight the oligarchy tours is another huge component of building her credibility as a presidential candidate, because she could do what Bernie Sanders is really good at doing, which is, I am a member of the United States Senate, or she'll be like, I am a member of the United States Congress. My job is to represent Americans. I care about all of you. I will always, prioritize my efforts in my home state where I'm responsible specifically for my district, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to be a voice to carry for all 50 states. And I think the fact that she's demonstrated her popularity, not just in places like Colorado, but in places like Arizona and places like Utah, Idaho, she does have 50-state appeal if she can connect herself to the Bernie Sanders movement enough. Now, whether or not she'll be able to, I think the jury's still out on that, but that would be one other thing that she has at her disposal. That
I just mean on the debate stage, like if Gavin Newsom's listing off all these things that he's actually done to fight Trump, and then he's like, what have you done? You went around the country signing autographs, and
it's tough. That would be a great criticism. That would be, I mean, that's a great debate pushback, but I do think that if she could have authentic connections with those people, she could talk about, yes, I'm not afraid of constituents, and I believe in old school politicking, and I am willing to go down, shake hands, kiss babies, and meet people where they are. I don't only go to wine caves and talk to people at the French Laundry. That's how I would respond to that.
Look out the door if you hear an ambulance. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there. Be there. The vanguard will be there.
Be there. Be there.